location where the conference is, and even though I'm staying at the hotel, I want to make sure that I'll be able to get there in time. And that was a really important thought because I started at 8:10 and it took me still 15 to 20 minutes to get here. So idea being that decisions are something that are going to happen every single moment throughout the day. And future of that process is actually going to be even more interesting. So how in the face of all of this happening together, where leadership comes in? A lot of what you're going to hear today is actually my opinion. And I want to make sure that I give a disclaimer that none of this material is going out from under a copyright of a company I work with or what I consult with. So coming back to the leadership aspect, all those decisions that you are taking on a daily basis, they are actually influenced by one or many things. You're maybe relying on an app that's your favorite news channel. You're maybe relying on a friend or a relative that he or she is the person, or any other pronouns is that person that you really care about and you trust their judgment. Which means your decisions are, in today's world, influenced by one or many, or maybe you are somebody like me who wants to do something that everyone is asking you to do, but you want to try something new. And that is totally fine as well, because that is also a personality trait, which sometimes pays off and sometimes not. So the slide that you're looking at, there are some points that I have put in here, and if you notice very carefully, I am not trying to focus on what you're reading versus what I'm saying, just to make sure that how you are all able to do parallel processing, because you were all listening to me, but at the same time you were looking at the slide, which means humans are way, way smarter than we have realized ourselves to date. That's a very simple experiment, but try it in other ways where you are looking elsewhere, you are listening to something. A lot of folks calls it multitasking, but it's actually beyond that. We all have the cognitive ability to actually process information much faster way, and it's all about the focus. I struggle with it myself. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. There's one important point that I do want to mention and I want to talk about a lot, which is the leadership beyond the formal positions and leading from within. Corporate America, we all love them. I work for one of them, and they have made a lot of the dreams possible for a lot of folks to have actually the job, the continuity, their ability to be able to pay the bills and have a paycheck, and this, peace and confidence. These are all the positive things. But at the same time, it has actually has deep roots of hierarchy in our working culture. If you're a certain grade, you are, and especially if you are with an authority, you're in a position to be making a lot of decisions, not for yourself, not for your company, but for a lot of folks around you. And by any chance, if this individual has a bias, and this person has a bias towards a certain type of technology, this person has a bias towards a certain type of way of making decisions, they have favorites or not those favorites. So that particular mentality over the course of our 10 or 20 years of entire technology has actually affected us in good and bad ways. My point specific to AI and machine learning is that in the future of technology, each one of you will be enabled, or each one of us will be enabled in a position that we can actually focus and making those decisions ourselves, including corporate America, where when things become competitive, they will also have to change, where through, irrespective of your position in a company, irrespective of what you do for a living, you will be in a position of achieving this autonomy where what do you want to do with your lives? Here are some of the considerations which I would like to focus a little. And I'm going to move on to forging the data-driven decision making. Data-driven decision-making is actually not new. It's been around for a very long time. And for folks, especially the technology folks who are here, we have done, this entire SAP, Oracle, like you pick up to any relational databases, any of those reporting tools, like I've been long enough around in technology world long enough to know Crystal reports. So there have been like so many platforms that have actually done reporting, and you have seen executives and you have seen owners and CEOs and saying that, the data is about to come in and we're gonna know whether we were profitable or not. Simple decisions like these, irrespective of the sales or whatnot. But when it comes to in today's world, when we're talking about what does really the data-driven decisioning actually means, we have actually added more facets to data. So if anything that is predictable, or we are adding the element of in the future, or even in today's world, how many more facets are added, and based on those facets, what type of decisions are we going to be taking? So I'm going to go back to that same example that 15 years ago, if you were visiting Vegas, or you wanted to know, which show is the best, or where do you want to eat, like simple decisions like those. As you go along, there's a chance that you're going to focus or let this decision be driven by, the guy who was driving you to the airport, or maybe the person who's checking you in. You're definitely going to take their opinion important. But today, it's all the Google rating or the Zagat rating, or wherever, or that specific. No, it's totally fine. Sorry about that. So coming up to the forging data decision making. So it is definitely at a point where it's taking you in places where now you have more avenues to actually catch on and go on and further, getting along with how it's going to help you even further. The next important point, which I want to focus a lot on, is on the ethical considerations. So today in the news, if you just put in AI and ML and you just look into ethical considerations, you will find at least 3 important topics that are right out there. For Amazon, the first one was that their recruiting system actually had a bias against women. Second of all, and it's actually published news, so you can please feel free to go and check and have fun with it. The second one is on the Uber self-driving car, that the way it was programmed, that it's kind of sad but important to share, that one of the pedestrians got killed. So the way it was programmed to actually look for jaywalking or different instances, like that's an important one too. The third one is on the facial recognition, that in today's world, the models actually have a bias towards the lighter skin tones. So all 3 is something that we have already discovered today. Any discovery, whether positive or negative, that we are able to do today is actually going to help us shape the future, which means the data that we are giving in today for all of these large language models or systems, they are going to be helping us figuring out the positive and the negative. So positives we're going to keep, and negative is what we need to work on moving along. I'm actually running behind on time, so I'm gonna just speed the things up. So present-day complexities. These are all the various present-day complexities that we have to face upon, the job displacement, uncertainty and change. Algorithmic bias and unfairness is where I wanted to, if I had a lot of time, we would have focused on large language models as well. But the 3 examples that I gave you are the really good searches to go about them and read about them, and there are ways implemented today where companies are actually investing their times to fix it. So recognition of a problem is the very first step that we need to be, all working together. Data privacy and security, I want to mention there are a few sessions coming in today and tomorrow during the conference. Please make every attempt to attend those sessions, because there are folks here who are very focused to talk about cybersecurity. They're very focused to talk about different patterns, and you'll definitely learn a whole lot from it. Preparing for the technological landscape. This is a really important one. Adapting to rapid technology changes, navigating ethical dilemmas, overcoming resistance to change, and building an AI-ready skill set. So talk about building an AI-ready skill set. I did some fun with it. Last year, I got myself enrolled in a machine learning postgraduate program in UT Austin McCombs. And in my days of programming, I did all bunch of, Visual C++ and whatnot, like almost 15, 20 years ago. And then over the years, JavaScript and web technologies, middleware. But this was my first time going back, trying to build neural nets, models and whatnot. And I wasn't doing that well. My first two quizzes, I barely passed them. And this was the first time not getting an A and being comfortable about it because it was a really cool thing to tell people I am learning AI and ML. Minus the coolness factor, I wasn't doing well. But what is important and why it was important for me to go there, the program is still going on. It was important because now when people talk about auto-generators, or any board, anything that I'm reading, I know exactly what's going on there. So I want to highly encourage with the topic of leadership that please, you need to actually test the status quo. Anything and everything, it doesn't matter whether it's a skill set or whether it's a human connection, you have to challenge the status quo. Please go back, walk in, and try it. What's the worst can happen? As an adult, I think our ability or our fear towards failure is what we need to focus on a lot. And another very important point that I want to mention over here is balancing automation with human touch. So I have access to ChatGPT. I have access to ChatGPT 4 now. I am a paid member. I got Bard. I have all of those available, which means I shouldn't be failing any of my quizzes. Come on. I mean, I have so much free help. Why should I ever even make it to a point where I'm failing it? So the school is doing a really good job in terms of how they have designed the courses. So they also know that there is ChatGPT in the background. And then there is this self-correction that's out there as well, that if I am making a point to go there and study, and I'm not even putting in a 50%, then it's actually a waste of my time. And I often give this example. This happened to be a topic where I was actually speaking at Women in Technology this year, and I got to talk about generative AI, and a lot of moms wanted to know that what is my position about kids using these tools to do their assignment. And my position is very clear. I think it takes me back to my high school years where some students, or few percentage, were not very keen to really learn things in a more standard or stereotypical fashion, which is to pick up a book and research and practice and then figure out how something works. Few students were amazing about learning it quickly and then explaining to others. And those are the ones who become, end up doing assignments for a lot of different folks. And then there was another group which was somewhat interested to do a group study, but do other things as well. And I kind of feel like that those are all different human ways of learning, and they will still prevail and they will still exist. There will still going to be some kids who wanted to use ChatGPT to do everything for them. And if they ever get caught, this will become a moment for them to, learn, change their behavior, or maybe not. Or if they don't, then so be it. But the idea is that we always have ways of figuring out things differently because we're all very unique. And because we're very unique, that's actually our strength. And coming back to leadership, that strength is what's going to help you in the future, where in the presence of artificial intelligence and in the presence of machine learning, every single company, every single product that you use, and every single action that you're taking in your lives will have actually more option to do the same. Which means whenever you want to actually figure out what you want to do with your life, if I'm speaking, from a mom standpoint or having this conversation with my 15-year-old or 11-year-old, this conversation may be more complex because today to define what the future of different professions is going to be is there is an element of unknown, and that uncertainty and that element of unknown is actually really, really powerful. So my only closing remark over here is to be open for change, to be open for, open for, open for challenge yourself, challenge your thinking, and open for new ideas. So I already talked about a little bit on embracing the unknowns, but let's focus the managing the human-machine collaboration. That is one of my very favorite topic, and I want to actually focus on some of the examples that I am personally using, and I want to actually hear from the audience as well if they have some. So human-machine collaboration is, in my mind, happening also for some time. Especially for people who actually come from the profession of like technology. And I know, some folks who kind of feel that they don't do technology, but without them actually realizing it, they are also using technology, thanks for all the smartphones. This collaboration for me is specifically started upon when I picked up a role to actually develop one of the apps for one of my clients. And the idea back then was that the front-end design teams were geographically located in Europe. I was in North America, leading few teams in few different sites from here. And some of the development teams were all the way back in Asia in 2 different locations. So geographical location was actually something we have already solved for. All have access to same information server, application servers, how we are doing the code collaboration, how we're deploying code is not a problem at all. The only thing which was impeding our ability to make progress was the creative process building of what use case we are trying to solve for. Because the creative director from North America had a slightly different way of thinking towards solving a problem. Versus, and this is only their geographical location, and then we were hammered by our time zone differences. And at that time, we didn't have as type of collaborative tools as we have today. So the past 5 years, and especially COVID, has sped up this process to a point where it's just phenomenal. It's just astronomical of how you can actually share ideas and go about it, and then, go on and on. Over there, the way we were able to solve the issue is by having and start building one model that everyone should be contributing to. So each single use case, and our use case was that you should be able to pay for your gas as you walk into a gas station without having your credit card, without having your driver's ID, without having anything on. You just should be able to use your smartphone as your identification. And today, we have, so many ways to solve that same problem. Technically, some countries have implemented you don't even need a passport on you, and they should be able to identify you and get you in. I am getting behind, so I'm gonna, just put in few examples out there. These companies have actually implemented, and they have been using AI, not just recently, at least a decade and more. And each one of them has various examples where Amazon has solved the e-commerce situation when it was actually 2 decades ago. And then Tesla, where they have built. First, they figured out a whole bunch of things with the battery, which was an issue. And now robots are actually building the cars. Netflix, Spotify, figuring out what you watch, at what time of the day you are actually watching. That's also interesting. And try and have some fun with it. Google, of course, I would probably not do enough justice with the time that I have remaining. I want to leave you with a final thought, and which is, throughout the 3 days that you're here, do few things with yourself. Irrespective of what your area of focus and speciality is, your job title, try and introduce yourself to somebody without sharing the title and have this conversation. And then meet the same person maybe tomorrow, like same person. And this time, introduce yourself with the title and repeat this experience with people sharing a title first and not sharing a title. And just see how the conversation goes. That's number 1. Number 2 is specific to leadership. allow yourself to be please taking risks, doing things that you're uncomfortable with, trying out a different software, trying out a different way of doing the same thing. And then we also, if you look at in the agenda, there are various different type of technologies and programs that are on panel. So we're actually talking about cybersecurity here. We're talking about whole lot of products, especially for a lot of entrepreneurs who are coming on the floor to talk about the technologies and the problems that they are solving for. Those are great opportunities of learning. And always foster an agile culture. I cannot stress about it the best, and I think the really great example that I can think of is when the SR-171, which Lockheed Martin had built, and a lot of people, again, think and feel that agile is a new concept. It's actually not. There's a lot in the past that has been tried and tested before. So when you are searching a topic, a term that you have heard for the first time, maybe it is the first time for you. It happens to me a lot of times with a lot of famous songs. Really, really popular songs, a lot of artists have went back and they have, re-recorded those songs. So do the same thing with all your keywords as well. And with that note, thank you very much for your time, and you all have been a great audience.